Good evening, everyone. This webinar Q&A is for you if you are either decided that you are going to be resitting your A-levels this year, or if you are still on the fence a little bit, considering a resit and whether that's the best choice for you. Um, Hello, everyone who's in here in the Zoom already. I am co-broadcasting to YouTube. YouTube people, I will try and keep an eye on the chat, but I am mostly focused on the people here in front of me in the Zoom room. It's just way more responsive. And they're the links that we've shared with all of the people that we know about. So, hi, wow, loads of you with names beginning with A. Anne, Awa, Asma, Azizun, is that am I pronouncing your name correctly? I'll pull up the chat first of all. If you've got questions for me about resitting, please put those questions in the Q&A. Normally I take questions in the chat, but if there's basically so many questions going on, I can't handle it. The Q&A is a nice place for that to go, because then I don't lose them. They stay with me there. Perfect pronunciation. I like it. Can I do a quick sound check first of all? I've got loads of different versions of microphones here. I'm currently using these, but they might not be the best. How is the sound? Great. Okay. Well, I mean, should it be choppy? Should anything be a bit weird? Just let me know straight away in the chat. I've got loads of different settings at my disposal. Um, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Rich Thompson. I'm the founder of Tailored Tutors. I have been tutoring and teaching A-levels since 2010. Um, so quite a long time now. And this is obviously a clutch time of year for you students who just either finished year 13, pretty much. So I'm sure you're going to have questions. And in fact, I'm going to start with a poll for those of you in the Zoom room. It's basically, are you decided? If you're on YouTube, you can just put decided I'm going to resit or considering or thinking about resitting. I just want to get a bit of a gauge for them. This this webinar will cover both of those tracks. So don't worry. Okay, well, I can see immediately 78% have decided they're going to resit. Okay. I'm going to try and keep this as interactive as possible. I'm going to go through the information, but mostly it's probably going to have specific questions about your individual situation. As I said, Q&A is the place for them. Is everyone fired up? Is everyone ready? I want to see in that chat. I want to see some activity in there. That's where we're going to be engaging with everything, basically. I'm just going to close off a few of my little windows here. Hi, Hiba. Hi, Abbas. Hi, Bindu. Um, Okay, so let me just dive straight into the meat and the veg here, and then we'll take questions and look at individual circumstances and all of that kind of stuff at the end. If you are on YouTube, I do have the chat open, so you can just like leave me a comment there, and I'll try and cycle back and catch that periodically. Okay, so 73% decided to resit, 27% still kind of on the fence. I think from a logic standpoint, it makes most sense for me to essentially do the when is resitting a good idea? And for which students does it make the most sense? So I've got a PDF which I can share with you. When do I want to share Chrome here? Yeah, I think I'm going to share my Chrome browser. This will be a bit faster. Okay, so just checking the screen share's working again in the chat. Just let me know. Just say that, yeah, it's all good. Okay, perfect. I'll make my chat a little bit bigger here. Okay, so resitting is for students who ideally was 1 to 2 grades off their target grade. So in the chat, tell me what was what grades did you get and what grades do you need? So that might be like CCC dash with your current grades and then maybe BBA or ABB or something like that. So how far off? Because I mean, I'm going to go through all the nuances, but this is the general. If you're like 1 to 2 grades away, then okay. Um, Predicted A star in biology, you've got a B and you need an A. Okay, so that kind of grade improvement over 1 year shouldn't be too challenging. Obviously, we're going to be targeting 2 grade improvements from your baseline, what you got this year. C to an A is definitely possible. If you're looking to do Bs to As across multiple subjects, that gets much more challenging. And obviously, the more subjects you resit, the more challenging it becomes because there's more things to divide your time between. So how many subjects will you be resitting if you've decided to resit, or would you be resitting? Okay, 7 marks off for B. So how many subjects would you be resitting? Because that's another factor. Would it be all 3 subjects or just 1 subject? So as is in one subject, obviously you can focus all of your time on that. You can maybe have a part-time job at the same time. I'm going to be discussing that. And, 2-grade improvement in 1 subject, quite manageable. You need like a 3-grade improvement in 3 subjects. That's a lot more work. So just to be considered. So, okay. So ideally, not a million miles away, 1 to 2 grades. It's ideal to resit if you have a specific, basically non-negotiable goal. What is your university course that you want to be doing? Is that medicine, dentistry? Let me know again in the chat. These are like, I really want to be I'm assuming these things, but sometimes I make assumptions which are veterinary, of course. Or maybe it's a specific university like Oxford or Cambridge that you want to go to. Or maybe there's a career that basically just has it's a limitation to not have a specific, you need minimum of 3 Bs to do something in specific. And it's basically non-negotiable. And you want to do that. You've always wanted to do that. And in which case, spending an extra year, yes, it's a setback, but it's not the end of the world by any means. If you're like, oh, I kind of want to do this or kind of want to do that, and you're not dead set on doing something, then it's going to be really hard to find the motivation. I'm going to talk about motivation a bit later on as well. It works best if you want this outcome yourself, not your parents. I get a lot of students who are doing, medicine, dentistry, and say, "Oh, why do you want to do medicine?" Oh, my father's a doctor. My father's father's a doctor. My father's 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 a doctor. It's like, do you want to be a doctor? Oh, I don't know. It's like, well, it's much harder again to find that motivation if it's something that someone else wants. Then if it's what you want for yourself, it's much easier to tap into that. So again, that's another sort of factor here. Do you want this for yourself, or does someone else want this for you? There's different ways of resitting. You can do this at your old school or college and essentially repeat year 13. There are a few little perils with that. Or most people are going to be independent candidates, which gives you way more flexibility over where and when you spend your time, but it requires you to be obviously studying without someone whacking you with a stick saying, this is your work for today, this is your homework for today. You'll be self-studying. If you don't have a clear target and you can't commit to effort and over multiple months, basically the resit journey is going to begin more or less from today. If you've decided, like, do not, oh, I'll start a bit later. It's very easy to put off this project. I'll start in September. I'll start in October. And then before you know it's January, it's like, oh, now I've only got 6 months and I need to got 3 grades in 3 subjects. And I don't remember anything from last year. The sooner you start, the easier it's going to be. So they're the major things. Okay, so Paul, I can bring up some information. The most common mark change in biology and chemistry and maths papers is 0. Over 50% of remarks in biology, chemistry, and maths papers, the change is 0. So then the most common change after that is 1 grade. It is a 1 mark, sorry, 1 mark. So remarks, basically, we know how annoyingly specific the mark schemes are. That annoyingly specific mark scheme makes for very accurate marking. That is why the mark schemes are so particular. So it's not common for massive errors. Okay, so for each of you, I want you to basically run through this little scenario. You can tell me in the chat, you can write it down. Basically, do you have that specific career aspiration? So I'd say, yeah, for remarking 7 marks off, definitely not worth it in chemistry. English, history, maybe. Essay subjects, there's more. The standard deviation of variation in marks is greater in essay-based subjects, but not in the sciences. So what are your career aspirations? What do you want to be resitting? Or why do you want to be resitting? Isn't it? We've got one person so far has told me vet med, but I have anything else. Okay, more medicine. Okay, so again, consider that gap. If you're 1 to 2 grades off, then a resit is highly likely going to be successful if you take it seriously. If you're like 3, 4 grades off, if I've got DDD and I need 4 A stars or whatever, like it's going to be really challenging. Um, University offers, like if you have a university offer this year or a clearing place that you are happy with, and you don't have this, complete aspiration to do this one specific career, then it's probably a good idea to take the offer. But if you are dead set on that medicine place, then resitting is the best thing. I had a student ask me, should I do a biomed degree and then transfer into medicine? That's I have had students do that in the past. I would just say a biomed degree is obviously it's going to be £9,000 a year plus tuition fees. Whether you if you're living at home, then obviously you might not have rent to pay, but it's 3 years versus 1 year of resit, and getting onto post grad medicine places is even more competitive than the undergrad. So it's not like, oh, once I've got a biomed degree, I'm a shoe-in to get the medicine post-grad place. One of my friends did red biology with me. She got a first, extracurricular, everything, music, sports. She was a fantastic student, worked hard, sailing instructor, applied for medicine post-grad 2 years in a row, didn't get anything. No interviews, I don't even think. So like, if they're not accepting Lucy, who are they accepting? It must be crazy competitive. So don't think that by getting the degree that suddenly it's an easy option. I think resitting ALevels and going that route is a more likely path to medicine than doing something like biomed and then transferring. Are there any alternative past foundation years? Not so much for medicines, unlikely. Okay, so this is where I want you to be honest with yourself. Like, what were essentially the reasons why we didn't get the grades last year? To the best of your honest ability in the chat there. Let me just go back and check YouTube. Yeah, to the best of your ability there, like what was the main reason or reasons you missed out on those grades this year? Was that you didn't really put maximum effort in? Was it basically that? Was it that you didn't really actually listen to my advice, or you didn't know about me telling you to start past papers as early as possible, to be making mistakes on papers, that we're using papers as a learning tool, not as an assessment tool? Papers are scary. You don't want to begin them. You don't want to do a paper and get a D if your target grade is an A. But if it's January and you haven't finished the A-level spec yet, that's okay. It's okay. Papers, the more papers you do, the better your grade will be. So essentially, was it your strategies? Was it your effort? Was it a combination of both? Um, that's what I would like to know. Or maybe there was extenuating circumstances. Maybe you were sick. Maybe there was a bereavement in the family. Maybe other things were happening, which hopefully won't be the case next year. So again, let me know in the chat there. I'm just interested to know, because if you gave it like 9 out of 10 effort last year, you were doing consistent past papers from April through to the end of the exams, that you had fairly good teachers, and you like did everything you possibly could, and you still came up 2 grades short. You weren't like just 1 or 2 marks away from the grade boundary. You were like 2 grades away. Then resitting is much less likely to yield a 2 grade improvement. But if you maybe didn't try that hard, if you maybe didn't do that many past papers, maybe if you did sort of like reread your notes and re-highlight your notes rather than doing active recall and challenging yourself with questions, if that was you, then obviously we can change some strategies, and highly likely that's going to pay off to increased grades. Um, I'll be honest, you're on straight A's or A stars, so you're not sure why the last 2 years you were number one in the multi cohort for 2 years straight, and in the end you came out with 2 grades lower in everything, past papers. I don't know what happened. That is an unusual. I had another student who was also performing brilliantly well, coming to my live sessions and answering all the questions, so I could tell that they knew the content. Was it across multiple exams, Ibrahim, that was the case? Across like, paper one, paper two, paper three, across multiple subjects? Were you very nervous? That would be the most obvious thing for me to think about. Is like, oh, you were just like didn't that the nerves got to you, that you maybe capitulated a little bit in those exams. Um, Exam pressure was definitely the biggest thing. I mean, I've got some minor strategies we could do for that, like simulating those exams as much as we possibly can. You could ask your school or college whenever they're doing like mocks in an exam hall for you to go there and just do a past paper, just to have a desk in the exam hall. It could be a year 7 end of year exam, whatever that exam is. If it's happening in the exam hall, can you go and just be there to build experience for the exam hall, those kinds of things? extenuating circumstances. So retakes done with genuine extenuating circumstances that are probably things like sicknesses, you're going to need doctor's notes and stuff like that. Those resits will totally be accepted by, I think, all courses in all universities, essentially. In some cases, medicine at some universities do regard resits to be slightly different to students doing it for the first year. The bad news about that is that every university and every course has a different policy. There is no blanket rule that I can tell you. I have put a link, I think, in this document. Yeah, coming up next on the next page, which I'll share now. Didn't keep up to date with your year 12 studies as you move through year 13. Okay, so I've got a sort of a plan for the year for those people who have decided to resit. Let me just move on with the next step here before we do that. So do resits impact university applications? Some universities and some courses, the answer to that is yes. But each university and college has their own policy. So there isn't a universal one. For almost all, if you had extenuating circumstances, you can resit with, as long as you've got sort of evidence that of that extenuating circumstance, and they'll just accept those grades. Sometimes you have slightly higher criteria. So with a resit, instead of being ABB, it might be AAB. Again, you have to like check with your institution. The Medic Portal has this pretty good table here. I can't vouch for its accuracy, but I mean it's the best thing that we have. So we have basically the this is obviously for medicine schools, which of them take A-level resits, and then you've got obviously the list here. So I'd say that might be quite useful. I would say whatever you do, just don't take that as gospel. Like use that as a guide. Pick up the phone, send them an email, check in. Because if your dream is to go to Aberdeen to do medicine and you're just relying on the information on this website, that is, you don't want to be spending a whole year of your life resitting when that might not be the case. So just verify the information. What are the practicalities of resitting? Well, essentially the time and the cost. But just remember the fees, well, you're probably going to have to pay to enter the exams. Maybe your school or college will re-enter you and they will pay for you, which would be very nice. In the grand scheme of the costs of this, the exam fees are not, you're not talking thousands of pounds. You're talking maybe low hundreds for the exam fees. You have any academic support you need. Obviously, most you could do this free. You can just self-study this with your existing resources, and you could do this on your own. And then basically it's just the exam fees and your living expenses for the year. I would highly recommend, if you are an independent student, having some academic support. Whether that's a tutor, maybe like not even every week, maybe a monthly slot with a tutor. Obviously, we Tailored Tutors offer an unlimited access course that you can use throughout the rest of the year. I will be giving you an offer at the end of this, but let's talk about that then. Having some academic support as an independent candidate is going to be really valuable. For extenuating circumstances, would a long-term health condition that flared up be accepted? Yes, but I imagine you would need a doctor's note for that, and maybe a note from the school. Maybe not both, but one or the other. But the school would probably require a doctor's note in order to write a note to back up that, essentially. So yeah, I think a long-term health condition, yes, and obviously if it's quite common for things like that to flare up during exam time because the stress increases your cortisol, which can impact your immune system, and then especially autoimmune diseases and things like that. It is really inconvenient that at those stressful times when you want to be in best health, that suddenly those conditions flare up. That is one of those annoying things. Again, we could potentially work with some stress management, some breathing techniques, be some possible mitigation strategies there. The reason I couldn't keep up studying year 12 was because I was dealing with depression. Does that count? Again, I think you would need a medically signed off from a doctor. If you're medicated for that, then that's probably good enough. But your school or college would need to do that. Likely, yes. Likely, yes. Okay, that's an interesting question. Can I take that? Can you just remind me of that, Ibrahim? Should I make new resources or use old resources this year in your resit? That is, I think it's a great question, and I'm going to come to the sort of the mechanisms of how to go about studying in a moment. Again, tap into this motivation. It is going to be hard work. There's going to be times when you are demotivated. If you're independently studying, this is going to be something you need to really have a clear goal. for that. And if you're not intrinsically motivated, this comes back. Do you want it for yourself? Or do you want to do this because your parents want you to do it? And if you're doing something because your parents want you to do it, it's going to be much harder. Doesn't mean it can't be done, but it definitely is going to make it much harder. Um, you will need to sit the exams, which means you need an exam center. Most likely, this is going to be your former school or college. It doesn't have to be. If you had, issues with teachers there or something along those lines, then you don't have to do it there at all. There are some private exam centers. Again, that will require some independent managing. If you change exam centers, make sure that you do the same exam boards in the same subjects. There's a lot of work to be done this year, and you don't want to be, switching from AQA to OCR. Yes, probably 90% of the content is highly similar or the same, but there's more work to be done. I would say don't switch exam boards if you can possibly avoid it. In the sciences, the practicals are mandatory. You're not graded for them, but they're mandatory. If you're resitting with the exam center, when you're confirming with that exam center, will you accept the practicals that I had done and signed off from last year? In the sciences, really important, because if not, redoing those is expensive. If you do them privately, you have to go to like a private lab where they can actually do those things, or you have to go back to your school or college if they'll take you. Just more admin to be thinking about, but do make sure you ask that question, write that down if you're doing the sciences. Some schools are happy to give basically updated predicted grades. Obviously, if you get the same predicted grades, that may or may not work for you. If you don't need updated predicted grades, obviously that's probably fine. If not, you need to find someone. Now, Tailored Tutors, we don't do this because to do this faithfully, to do this accurately, the individual going to update your predicted grades needs to see your exam performance. They need to interact with you one-to-one to assess that. So we do offer one-to-one tutoring. If that is something like individual tutors can write you a letter, but you would need to be having one-to-one time with them. They'll need to see you do papers live, not just give you a homework. Because if I say do this paper, and I don't know if you've used ChatGPT, someone has to be there if they're going to do it faithfully. And I'm only interested in doing these things if I can do them properly. So it's not a service that Tailored Tutors offer, but there are some out there. The WhatsApp group, there have been some suggestions in there. So if you're not sure about predicted grades, that's the alumni channel in the WhatsApp group, the best one. So wrapping up on the major things here. Pros. One high probability of getting a 1 to 2 grade improvement. It sets you on that obviously career path that you're intrinsically motivated for. Obviously, this accesses more competitive courses, deeper subject knowledge. Ultimately, that's going to be more salary, higher social standing, all the kind of stuff that's probably going to come along with medicine, dentistry, veterinary. Like when you look back in 40 years at the end of your career, the 1 year that you resat your A-levels is probably going to be pretty insignificant. Chance to improve your abilities, improve your confidence. Obviously, if you're going into the sciences, deeper subject knowledge is always useful, and definitely more time to mature, which I went to university after a gap year, and it was noticeable those students who'd come straight from school and those that had an extra years of experience. Downsides, cons, there's no guarantee of improved grades. You have to put the work in. It's going to be hard work. The little bit of cost, and for tutoring, tailored tutors, and sitting the exams, that kind of stuff, there's a 1 year delay. Might be a big thing to you, might not be, and more stress, more pressure. Okay, I'm just going to come back and answer any questions before I go into the next sort of plan. So there's a few questions there. How do I best manage my time to resit all 3 A-levels? Okay, so, and great question. I mean, I start with just the basics. How many hours per week? You can all answer this. It was Anne's question, but you can all answer this. How many hours per week is it realistic for you to spend studying? If we can do this nice and snappy, we can obviously revise these. These are not commitments. Okay, I was going to go total, but you would have gone 10 hours per subject per week, 7 hours per subject per week. Okay, so you might want to think about, obviously, do you need a part-time job here? Just on the note of doing part-time job or paid work in general for this year, your primary goal, if you are resitting, is to get the grades. I have had multiple students in past years say, well, I had to take a job so that I could fund these things and, pay rent or whatever that might be. And then you end up working, 15, 20, 30 hours a week. And then there's not enough time to resit. And then you do the resits and you get the same grades or worse. And it's like, well, what was the point in spending that year the studies have to come first. It has to be your primary priority. So just bear that in mind. Part-time work might be there, but don't let it take over. Yes, we need money, but the whole purpose of this year is the grades. I would say, just looking at those numbers, what, 7 hours a week, 10 hours per week, 6 to 7 hours per subject per week. I would say, I'd say a minimum of 10 hours per subject per week. Minimum to, if just think about it, you need to go up, you need to improve. And I would highly recommend the first 6 months of the year to get ahead. You want to be, so again, I'm coming on to the tips later on. I might reiterate myself here. Imagine for you, I want you all who are going to do a resit to to pretend the exams are on April 1st or even potentially earlier. Your mindset needs to be, I have to be ready for April 1st because you won't be. But if you're ready to get your target grade in April 1st or close, then you've got then that final few months you can really just you can polish. You can then start to target a higher grade above that. I would say 10 to 12 hours per subject per week. So 3 subjects, that's 30 to 36 hours per week. So it's essentially full-time. A-levels are supposed to be a full-time course. Just because you've done this before, yes, if you get ahead, if you're like cruising on past papers, you're doing full A-level papers and you're getting your target grade comfortably by Christmas or by end of February, sure, you could drop that down. You could go down to 8 hours per subject per week. It's easy to take your foot off the gas. It's not easy to be behind, and it's stressful to basically catch up. Um, Bilal, do you have to redo practicals? As I said, that is dependent upon your exam center. So when you're finding your exam center, the place where you will sit your exams, you need to ask them, will you accept the practicals that you did last year? Now, if you did it at school or college, they'll either just accept the ones you did last year, or they'll let you go back in. If you're not redoing year 13, if you're studying independently, they'll let you go back in when they're doing those practicals and you'll just redo them. Um, there isn't a blanket answer. Is it realistic to be able to get 2 grades higher with sheer commitment to studying across how many subjects are? I'd say 2 grade improvement across 3 subjects is realistically a max. Like if you're looking for more than that, like that is 2 subjects. I think it's 100% possible. I think it is realistic if you don't do all the mistakes that come. If you don't just try to relearn the A level, the most common resit mistake is, oh, I'm just going to go back to the beginning of year 12 and I'm just going to rewatch the videos. I'm going to reread the notes. I'm going to just redo what I did previously. You lot have learned the content once already. Yeah, I'm sure you don't remember it all perfectly. There will be an element of relearning the content, but you're not going to do that in spec order from chapter 1 to chapter 12. That is not the most sensible way of going about it. You want to be starting with questions, starting with past papers, and filling knowledge gaps as you go. You want to become a master of the exams over this year, not just regurgitating content. I think I've covered all the questions there. Where can we find a tutor who does this across all 3 subjects? At A level, it's not that common to find tutors that will do the 3 sciences and maths. There are some out there that do that, but kind of by definition, they're not going to be a specialist, right? So you certainly might get biochemistry combo, maths physics combo. They're like maths and physics, pretty common. Biology, chemistry, A level, pretty common. There are some science tutors out there who will offer all 3 at A level, but A levels are getting pretty specific. So, like for me, I couldn't touch A level physics. I did A level chemistry, but I haven't touched it for many years. So I would say you're probably looking at a couple of different tutors at A level. At GCSE, the sciences are so basic. I used to teach GCSE physics and chemistry and maths and all that kind of stuff, but um, I haven't done the numbers on this year, Paul. It's actually really hard for us to get final grades from students because we're not the school. Schools get literally a spreadsheet on this student and what their grade is. We have to like text students and find out how they did. So our data is a little bit more choppy. I think it's 2.6 grades, I think, for those that engage with the course and follow our advice. So nearly 3 grades. Okay, so Bilal, in terms of your questions about studying independently, but using your previous colleagues in the exam center, you just phone them up. And honestly, I know that you lot are not phoners, but schools are old school. Like phone conversation or literally an in-person conversation with the head department, whoever the person you need to speak to there is the exams officer, maybe. They're the kinds of questions to ask. Destiny, can tailored tutors give you a predicted grade? Not directly. We are now offering one-to-one tutoring with some of the highly experienced tutors, and so through them, paying for, as I said before, we have to be dead set sure that it's your work. I'm not going to just lie for you because I don't believe that that's a sensible thing for me to be doing. So tailored tutors, as our existing courses are, no. But a tutor that you source through tailored tutors could potentially do that. Yeah. Um, it was an eye opener. I was just about to relearn a topic a day and then finish in February and start papers. Well, it's there's different strategies. I'm going to go through my recommended strategy. Um, that seems to be some questions on that. So let's jump into that right now. I'm on the wrong window there. Let's try this one, this window, please. Yeah. Okay, great. Um, so this is a sort of a template schedule. Oh, for the year. I think I'm sharing the wrong screen right here. Let's share the screen instead. Okay, so the most common recent mistake is try to just simply relearn the content all year and then do past papers just before the exams. Like if I could offer you a choice, again, you can ask me in the chat, if I could offer you a choice between knowing all of the content, option A, being really good at the exams, option B, which option do you want? Let's say I could sell that to you for £1,000. Of course, your mission is to be good at the exams. It needs you to understand the content pretty well. But that is not the same. They're not the same goal. Your goal from today has to be get really good at the exams. And you do that with lots of paper practice. And then when you don't understand something, when you don't know something, we're going to use the mark schemes and we're going to use our learning resources to achieve that understanding and to learn those. If it's a described question, I'm going biology here, but if it's like describe question for 4 marks, memorize those answers. We need to be learning those because describe the process of transcription. It might be a 4 mark question, it might be a 5 mark question. It's the same. They're not allowed to change their marking points. Described questions are AO1, assessment objective 1, factual recall. If it's a factual recall question, the facts are the facts until the spec changes, which we don't have to worry about because it's not going to change for this yet. So if it's a 4, 5, 6 mark described question, memorize that answer or memorize a generic version of that answer. The question might change a bit. You might get describe the process of transcription, 4 marks. You might get describe the process by which messenger RNA is made within the nucleus. Well, and still describe transcription. It might be 5 marks, not 4 marks. It's going to be the same marking points. So that isn't your goal. Your goal is master the exams. There is time to relearn the contents, but that should not be the only thing you do each week. So each week per subject, this is learning content. We've got this sort of gray slice. This is roughly proportion. So roughly 25% of your time is learning the content. Roughly 50% of your time is revising content. So that's going to be topic-based question packs. So if we're going to do this TT, learning content would be watching the videos, writing notes, and doing the quizzes. Essentially, 25% of your time. Revising content, topic-based question packs. Might be learning flashcards. It might be watching live class recordings. It might be like essentially more zoomed out topic level stuff based on questions, always questions, questions, questions. Honestly, if I was doing the gray section here, the relearning the content, and I was a research student, I would start with the quiz and then decide, oh, do I need to go back and watch the video and write notes on this again? Or actually, I smashed that quiz. I'm just going to move on. And then about half of your time each week or each month is the TT revision method, which itself is doing papers And using the mark schemes to write model answers, to write key term definitions, you're going to be, oh, I totally didn't get this application question. I'm going to go back that this application question is on translocation. I'm going to go learn translocation, or it's on whatever time of flight, mass spectrometry. You can tell I'm not a chemist, but like, what are the areas where you didn't understand? Squeeze all the learnings out of those papers. And then basically towards the end, we are just going to be papers and then gap filling, papers and gap filling. Again, you want to be ready for that exam. Pretend that the exam is at the end of March. Be ahead of schedule. Take the pressure off you. Nothing worse than you spending this whole year. You've got 10 months right now. If you've got the whole year to dedicate to this and being behind in the end, if you're still a grade off your target grade in May with your exams around the corner, that's really stressful. Don't put yourself in that position, but you have to be proactive. You want to use papers throughout the year. So who was it? Was it Ibrahim? Ibrahim, how does that structure look? What's your emotional reaction to just looking at that structure? Does that's like, oh, that makes sense. Actually, that's something I feel like I could stick to. Or are you like, there's no way, Rich. And when I'm saying doing past papers here, in September, we're going to do papers in September. Let's say we're going to do an AS paper. I'm not expecting you to get your target grade. We are using papers as a learning tool, not as an assessment tool to be like, oh, currently you're at a D. If you did a paper right now, you'd probably get Ds. You'd probably be rubbish because it's been 2 months, you haven't thought about it for months. But that's okay. That's your entry level stepping stone to move towards where you want to go. Um, Within the course, and actually, I'll show you. You have faith. Yay. Do I have specific advice for research in chemistry? Yeah, let me pull up in just a moment. But I'm following this structure would be my advice. And obviously, which topics you do in which weeks can vary a little bit. But I would recommend a multi-topic approach rather than starting at topic one, the AS, and working our way through. If you start with a paper and then it's like, oh, I got this question wrong here. That's the topic I'm going to do next. It's not necessarily a linear approach. Okay, so our resources. Essentially, let's talk about the resit study plan. Let me go to, what I'll do, I'll show you in over here. So within Tailored Tutors, those of you who don't know, this is our sort of course homepage. This is where you sort of can see all of your progress. You can view all the lessons. But if you've got a resit study plan over here, it's actually going to basically be very, very similar. I'll just show you in both of those places, the one for biology, one for chemistry. They're all exam board specific. I've got all the different courses here, but you're just going to have the ones that you're actually studying. I'd say watch the video because there is some important information there. It's 3 minutes and 39 seconds, so it's not going to take you too long. So this is a sort of a learn from scratch plan. I got asked for this over and over and over again. So you do have essentially like a 24-week tick off content first approach, which is not my primary recommendation, but I got asked for it so many times. Eventually I was like, well, clearly I just need to give students what they're looking for here. And it gives you some past paper questions and past papers to be doing. So basically a tick list for the week. Probably what I would recommend more is a past paper based approach where you're picking a paper. In this case, we've got this same paper spread across 2 weeks, and then a different paper, and then a different paper. And essentially, you're going to be using the things that you've found difficult in that paper. And again, that might not just be topics. Maybe it's like, oh, I'm terrible at these evaluate questions. Oh, I'm really bad at understanding what the question is actually asking me to do. So the TT revision method is much more holistic, much more exam focused. If you're just learning the content, you could learn all the content perfectly. You could spend the next 3 years working 12 hours a day, every day for 3 years, have all the content down pat. But then what if your problem is, oh, I don't know what this question is asking me. I've got all the knowledge. It could be an open book paper for all it matters. You could have all the resources in front of you. But when you come to it, it's like, I don't know which bits of knowledge to write down for this answer. Then if that is your problem, learning the content is not helping you. It doesn't matter what content you know at that point, because if you don't understand the question, you cannot write an answer that's going to get marks. So that's why the TT revision method is a more safe bet, a more holistic approach. And you can see in chemistry, obviously, the content-based strategy is kind of different, but our past paper-based approach is actually really similar across all the subjects because the papers are going to drive the content. Um, okay, so they are the sort of versions of the study plans that we have. Obviously, our tutors are exam experts and not just content experts because sometimes it's not the content. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Depends on the student. You can ask questions. We're actually also introducing an AI, trained AI bots in biology and chemistry for you to ask questions. You'll still be able to ask me questions. We're not taking that away, but it's a thing we're adding in. We also have our grade guarantee. So again, this is based around doing past papers. So if you're following our method and doing the things that we recommend, it's 9 papers over a minimum of 9 weeks. But you guys could literally start in September with an A-level paper because you've done A-levels in the past. So literally you've got 9 months to do 9 papers. It's a pretty easy thing to do if you're following our advice. Lots of students don't do it. You have to send us the papers to show that you've done them because we're not just going to take it on trust. But essentially, it's quite straightforward. And literally, if you don't get your target grades, we give you your money back. That's how it goes. But you read the terms carefully. If you're interested in fact, is that the website that I've linked here? I don't know what I've linked here. Yeah, so just read. It's not huge, the terms conditions here. Like I just read the page and then the full terms conditions are here. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs. It's not like legalese to the end of the world. That is just how it goes. I've lost my place. Here we are. And in terms of long-term pricing, this is only available until the end of August. Just FYI, like this is the cheapest price that's ever going to be. Um, the This is the standard weekly price, and then this is what the price is if you decide to do this before the end of August, basically. And these links here will just take you straight to the checkout page with the coupon fee applied. So you can see, obviously, the cost is 585 and the saving is 585, which is yeah, as I said, it's the biggest saving you're going to get if it's one subject, 2 subjects, or the all 3 subjects. It's essentially £1,000, give or take, to do unlimited TT for the year, which compared to 9 grand of tuition fees, I think you can now have some context for how good value that is. Yeah, I'm not planning on changing the monthly price. The monthly price is going to be, I can share the PDF with you right now. Let's just copy and paste that URL and you can have it right there. How many of you are genuinely thinking about like using tailored tutors to like guide your research year, essentially? Okay, so I think I've missed a few questions. My question to you is how many of you are considering just using tailored tutors, resitting, committing to the year, getting ahead, and just going for it, basically? Do I have any specific advice for resitting A-level chemistry? Um, I would start the Tailored Tutors annual plan and I would ask Elena for sort of a bit of a advice inside the course is what I would do if I was resitting A-level chemistry. Same for biology, I would come and ask, give me, and don't just say I'm resitting A-level chemistry, what's your advice? Give her or give me your personal situation. I get this all the time. Can you give me a study plan? what what grade are you on right now? What do you find easy? What do you find hard? Where are your target grades? How many hours per week do you want to work? Do you want to do 2 hours a day? You want to do 2 hours a week? Like, give more context to the person who's making you that plan. There isn't just a singular magic plan that works for every student. Every student is different, and one of the joys with tailored tutors is that you can have that direct communication with the tutor via the chat and via the comments, and like that would be my advice, basically. Um, I really like the idea of a weekly learning plan, but I've booked my UCAT exam. I want to stay focused on that before I start revising again. Well, at some points you are gonna like it's a marathon, not a sprint. So at some points you are going to, have events, you're going to get sick, there'll be other things in your timeline. So that's okay. But just if you know you're going to be taking a week off, or you just have to shunt your plan around, so just like be proactive in looking at, oh, I'm planning to do 10 hours a week for biology and 10 hours a week for chemistry as a minimum. You can always do more. And like, but I'm going to be off for these 3 weeks. So that's 30 hours of biology and 30 hours of chemistry I've got to make up over the rest of the year. So maybe I'm going to do 12 hours a week from Christmas onwards, or I'm going to do an additional 10 hours a week. I'm going to do a 20-hour week this week and a 20-hour week next week, and I'm going to make up that time. So essentially, just look ahead and account for it. There is going to be a large amount of self-management, self-control. That's what I'm talking about in this independent studying. You're not going to have a teacher just do this, do that. And if you are going to resit year 13, just be aware that your teacher's job is to teach the year 12, is to teach the year 13s. If I was teaching a group of year 13s and a group of resit students, I would have a completely different approach. And so of course, they're going to want to help you as best they can, but you are not their primary demographic if you're resitting year 13. You are going to have to do working all keeping that AS knowledge up to date, one AS paper per month minimum one AS paper per month with the TT revision method. If you're resitting year 13, you want to be doing A-level papers. I would ideally aim for one AS paper and one A-level paper per month as a general rule of thumb, for all of you resit students. Um, oh, Ibrahim, you are quite right. It is our grade guarantee. You know the policies better than I do. That's why you should read the page, but you clearly have done. So yeah, our grade guarantee is you get the grades, you get into your first choice university rather than your target grade. So I mean, little difference between that. Obviously, the goal, I was like, what do students want? Like, they want to get into their firm choice. That's what they want. Um, I had the PT flip last year, and your videos were the only thing giving me an A star in my mocks, and I felt that I missed an A. It means I'm coming straight back to you guys. Okay, great. Well, I mean, you've seen the quality. Can I cover EdXLB? There is a large overlap called in the EdXLA and the EdXLB specification. And if you want to do the EdXLB specification, or if you obviously are doing the EdXLB specification, if you want, I can enroll you in the AQA and the OCR courses for biology, which will, some of those courses will cover the bits which the EdXLA spec doesn't cover. So there's a little bit of extra coverage there, but it takes me 2 years to create a course. I mean, to fill the gap, I basically no, I'm not going to be creating an EdXLB specific course, but there are some extra resources you could have that will fill most of those gaps. But filming all the past papers and stuff will not be a thing. Um, how do predicted grades work? To be honest, I'm not a complete expert in predicted grades. I would say your first port of call would be going back to your school or college and asking them if they are prepared to change your predicted grades if you resit. Because most students do go up. They may say yes, they may say no, depends on your teacher, depends on your head of department, all that kind of stuff. If not, then I would say either a private tutor and you're going to have to show them that you have an ability to get those grades. I mean, some tutors might not care, honestly. Some tutors will be like, yeah, if you pay me some money, I'll write you a letter. And that's up to them. It's not my approach, but that is probably doable. But remember, like, there's no value in then I'll just predict you 3 A stars. Brilliant. Okay, you've still got to get the grades. Ultimately, you're gonna have to get the grades. Otherwise, it's all for nothing, right? So I would say, Zane, if you're in the WhatsApp group, in the alumni group, there has been some conversation in the past about how to get predicted grades as a resit student. So I think there's actually even a resit group as well as the alumni group. So I joined the resit group and we'll try and get some of that going. If you need the link to the WhatsApp group, let me know. I'll find it and share it at the end. Is there an extra charge if you want tutor devising a plan? No, you can ask tutors questions the whole time. That's all included with Tailored Tutors memberships. So essentially, no, there's no additional charge for creating your plan. Um, no, we'll create your study plan. That's not a problem. It's going to be probably video format, giving you advice on how to structure your time, what things to be focusing on. There'd be well, what to be doing when. Um, can I explain more about the one-to-one tutoring? I mean, obviously, it's all online, the stuff that we do with Tailored Tutors. I'll share my screen and just give you a little walk through that, of course. Yeah, no worries. So on our website right here, accept those cookies. You've got private tutoring here. So you just come to this page here. This form actually I need to fix right now. I don't know what's quite wrong with it, but there basically if you fill in this form, um, you will then sort of enter our system. And if your parents are interested in joining me, I'm doing a one-to-one call with parents right now myself to review the situation. This is really for parents who are looking, and students as well. I recommend the parent and the student joins the call, who are looking for long-term support throughout the rest of the year. So the outcome from the call that you do with me is like a long-term strategic approach using tutoring, potentially using the tailored tutors courses. That would be amazing to do, but it has to be for people who are serious about doing it. The budgets there are going to be significantly more than just our course costs. Obviously, this is the cheapest the course is ever going to be at these prices that you see here. If you're like the quality of the tutors that we are working with are many years experience, examiners, senior examiners in some places, people who've written textbooks, like really good quality tutors. Essentially, it's a minimum. I mean, the prices of tutors vary, but it's going to be essentially a minimum of £50 per hour to give you a rough guide. So if that is an option for you, then I would say let me know and I can share the link to book that call with me. But again, your parents must be there and you must be serious about considering weekly tutoring or like at least monthly tutoring for the year. Um, so Naomi, that's how it goes there. Do I recommend starting now? Pablo, 100, well, by the end of August. Like I get some resit students who join my courses in February. And obviously the gap when you were last studying was June. So June to February is a lot of time to forget things. You've probably forgotten quite a lot. How much of your course do you think you remember right now? If you were to, let's maybe a different question. If you had to redo your A-levels today, what grades do you think you would get? Let's just throw that into the chat. Maybe high because of less stress. Definitely. In some circumstances, the stress is the thing that gets to you. I actually totally agree with your comment there, Ibrahim, as well, that the number of hours, there isn't a direct correlation to the grade improvement or the output. What you're doing is really important. So if you are doing exam paper practice, if you are deeply focused, 4 hours of focus in a day is a lot of focus. Like if you can do 4 1 hour focus sessions in a day, that's actually a lot of work versus 6 7 8 hours of fairly distracted, TV might be on in the background or in messaging, WhatsApp running. Like when I'm talking about focused work, I'm talking about no distractions, clear active task, fully engaged. And then if you're not engaged or you finished, then you stop and take a break. So 100% time time spent studying isn't the best predictor for improvement. The best correlation for outcome is past papers done in time conditions. I think starting in October would be fine. I would say do a little bit per week before October. if you possibly can. Try what about one AS paper in August, one AS paper in September with the TT revision method. So just like doing the paper, marking it, looking for your areas of weakness, and then spending 3 revision sessions, one on each of your top 3 areas of weakness. If you do that twice, once for August, once for September, and maybe once for October, if you're going to start in late October, that alone is going to just start things ticking over. What is the deadline for booking your exams? You've got a long time for the deadline isn't early. I think the latest entry for the A-level exams is in the spring, but I don't know exactly. I'll find the WhatsApp link and share it at the end. Saying, yeah, yeah, recording will be sent out to everyone who joined and registered. So we'll send it to you. Yes. I'd say, Anna, yeah, a B to a C. Go from a B and a C or to an A/A star. I think realistically, 2 grades is totally on the cards. So C to an A star is obviously B A star. That's a 3 grade jump. Anything's possible. We've had some students do like E's to A's and D's to A stars. It does happen, but I want to paint a realistic picture. They are the minority, not the majority. I'd say the majority are going to be 1 grade improvement, and then that's going to be probably the most common. 2 grade improvement probably next, and then probably no change actually is common because students don't put the work in early enough. They leave it too late. They don't use the right study practices. They just start relearning all the content, and then they find that, oh, it's not the content that's the problem. You know, it's a problem, but it's not the problem. So how do you sign up for the exams as an external candidate? I'd say your first port of call is your old school or college, to resit the exams with them, probably as an independent candidate. Um, that is your first port of call. If not, there are various exam centers around the country that you can do that. Um, and that takes a bit of work just to find one. But I mean, probably you could do a ChatGPT deep research. You could do obviously some manual googling there as well. And again, phone calls. I mean, emails are kind of okay to some extent, but I'd say you're going to get a much quicker response from phone calls in general, calling these places because they just work on old technology. That is just how they are set up. So you've got to kind of play their game rather than trying to force them to play your game, which might be sending them a message on Instagram. Probably not going to be the way to get good responses from exam centers, in all honesty. I'd say phone number 1, email number 2. Um, well, you don't have to book the exams, and you're going to have to find the exam center. So when is the best time to book exams? Basically, you won't have to worry. You find the exam center, find out whether they're going to accept your practicals from previous years or whether you have to redo the practicals. You have to find out whether they're going to give you updated predicted grades or not. So they're the kinds of questions. Again, go through the handout that I've shared, and I'll share the link again in case you don't have it. Um, Let me just to make it as clear as I possibly can, that the 50% off pricing, again, it expires at the end of August. You change your mind in September. It's like, oh, actually, Rich, I'd like that 50% off deal. It's done. This is the deal. Well, I suppose you could, if you wanted to still pay this price, but it's not going to be any cheaper than this. And obviously, you're then getting less value from it. Um, I've just lost your question. Yeah, you have access until the end of exams, until after your exam. You wouldn't have to. In fact, basically access until the end of June next year. Your exams are the 3rd week of June typically, so the 20th. So this gives you an extra free week after exams, but obviously you don't need it after exams. I just wanted to make sure that it's not going to cut you off anytime before the exams. So um, that's it. Lock, stock, and barrel. No additional costs obviously involved in that. No, it's a one-off payment, Bindu. It's a single payment upfront for the entire year. You never have to pay us again. There is no subscription. It will not renew. It's just one and done. If you get worse on your resit grade, which does happen, basically I mean, nothing happens. You got the grade that you got this year. So the results envelope that you opened last Thursday, if you got whatever, a C in biology, no one can take that away from you. You have a C. So if you do resit and you get a D or an E or an unclassified or whatever, you can still say on your CV, I have a C in A-level biology 2025. That's it. It's not a remark. A remark, and you then get taken grades off you that pushes you down below a grade boundary, which basically never happens because you'd be mad to resit if you were anywhere near. You should only remark if you're within one, two, maybe three grades, 3 marks of a grade boundary, upper tier grade boundary. If you're anywhere near the middle or the bottom half, it'd be madness to remark, because if you remark and your mark goes down, then that grade changes. But not for you're doing two separate exams. They're standalone qualifications. So it's like if I did another biology degree now and I got a 2-1 instead, I got a first when I did my degree. You can't take my first away from you. I still got a first in biological science. So that stands, that will stand forever. Yes, one-to-one tutoring is completely additional to the tailored tutors courses. If it's in the sciences, you can use tutoring. Obviously, you're going to probably need less tutoring because you've got the main body of teaching can be done by the course. You can then use that tutoring to be hammering exam questions with an examiner and be like, where am I going wrong? How can I improve the structure of my answers to get more marks with the knowledge that I already have here? Like that is the kind of thing that, as an independent candidate, maybe checking with the tutor once a month and doing exam questions with them or doing whole past papers with them and getting individual personalized one-on-one feedback. That is the kind of thing that, if you can afford it, is going to be really, really good practice. That way you've got someone like in your camp fighting for you individually. I try to do that as best I can for all my students, but I have hundreds. It's just like the reason why Tailored Tutors is as cheap as it is because it's a one-to-many relationship. It's not a one-to-one relationship. I can't help hundreds of students with 10 hours a week. It's not possible. Um, you know, and individual tutoring, the quality, I mean, basically we don't have anyone at 20 to 30 pounds an hour. Just like that. That's the level of tutors that I am vetting and accepting to be tutors. They're all experienced, good quality. And experienced, good quality people with 20 years experience are not going to be working for £20 an hour. It doesn't happen. Maybe if they're your aunt or they're a family friend, they might do your deal. But I mean, obviously you can arrange that yourself. 9 marks off a grade in chem. Should I remark? No, you will not go up 9 marks. I have that information actually. Let's see if I can. Let me pull that up. I'll just show you the remarking stats basically. Where's my folder gone? Okay. Resitting. Where's my information on remarking here? Okay, so remarking. Um, the typical mark movement for A-levels, 55%, 0 mark change. About 18% change by 1 mark, and about 5%, so 5 or more. But this is across all the A-level subjects, not the sciences. And as I mentioned before, essay-based subjects vary more in their marking than science-based subjects. How often do grades change? Well, this looks really good. 23% of grades went up. However, the people doing remarks are the people who are 1 mark away or 2 marks away from a grade boundary, not the people. It's not just like if every paper was remarked, very few grades would actually change. The average mark change per subject in 2024 was 1 mark change in biology, zero 0.9 in chemistry, and 1 in physics, 0.9 in maths. You can see in the sciences and maths, 1 mark difference is essentially your max. 2 grade jumps basically don't happen. So just to give you some context there, 9 marks is not happening in chemistry. 2 marks, you have a shot. Destiny, if you're 2 marks off a grade boundary, you're not going to go down a grade. You might, worst case scenario, you get 2 marks less or 2 marks fewer. 2 marks fewer doesn't change your grade. Obviously, there's a cost involved in remarking. If you're going to remark for accepting a uni place this year, then you have to do the priority service, basically, which makes it a bit more expensive. But again, the costs here relative to going to university, probably going to cost 40 grand, to go to university, an extra 100 quid here and there. It's not, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not the end of the world in the grand scheme of going to university. I'd say which paper to remark is typically the one where you got the fewest marks. That's the most opportunity for you to improve. But or if you've got a nice teacher, they might be able to review your scripts and advise you on which paper to remark, but it's unlikely. But if the money isn't, major concern, then remarking for 2 marks, it's a shot in the dark. Maybe it's a long shot, but it might work. It's definitely possible. Anna, you said you don't know how to improve. Again, remind me of what your grades that you got were and what grades you would need would be. Because if you because if you worked really hard and you did loads of exam practice, then I guess the other thing to ask is what GCSE grades did you get? Now, I'm going to share something with you here. These are population level numbers, which can be, I wonder if I can find it. I hope I can find it. GCSE to A-level grade averages. Okay, so what GCSE grades did you get in your, let's say, 7s and 8s? Okay, so let me show you something here. I'm not showing this for any other reason, just to give you a little just reality check here. So this is population level data across multiple subjects. So this doesn't reflect any single individual. These are just looking at the numbers. So if you got a grade 7 at GCSE, then this is the probabilistic outcome for your A-level grade. Again, this is, so the modal outcome is actually a D if you got a 7 at GCSE. And so C and D obviously pretty even. So you got a 7 in chem and you got a C overall. So you are in this cohort here. You are in, 25% of the people roughly did that. Now, let me show you about the GCSE grade 8. Well, let's actually, yeah, okay, so GCSE grade 8. Let's share this one. You see GCSE grade 8, things shift quite a lot. The modal grade outcome at GCSE grade 8 is now an A, with over 25%. But still, you have people like 5+% still getting E's and U's. So just to make you aware that at GCSE, every student in the country is sitting those exams. At A-level, a good proportion of students, and generally the lower half, obviously you need 6s usually to go on to do A-level. So everyone, the baseline is like a 6. The lowest entry level is a 6 for the A-levels typically. So now you're competing with not the whole national cohort, you're competing with the top half of the cohort. So the distributions get very skewed. So it's relatively easy to do well at GCSE. It becomes much more challenging to do well. So you might be sort of if you're getting B's at GCSE, or the equivalent of B's at GCSE, that is that useful or is that just scary to show you that? And you can see why schools now, if I show you the data for like what the modal grade for like if you're getting sixes at GCSE, and this obviously um, sixes at GCSE, the most common, the modal outcome is an E. So you can see why schools are very reluctant to take on students who getting sixes or below, because the stats show that they are going to really struggle. It just means we just have to work really hard. It means that it's, as I said from the beginning, it's going to be a challenge, but with the right steps, um, it's it's totally possible. Totally possible. Most research students do go up a grade because if they take it seriously. Okay, there was a couple of questions in the Q&A. I saw there's actually also a question on YouTube. Um, I don't know kind of what kind of advice you're looking for. On YouTube, you said, can you advise me? I got U's in chemistry and biology, Edexcel AS. I would say you want an exam targeted approach. You don't just want to be learning content because you are 100% graded based upon the exam. 100%. So students fall into this trap of like, I must learn all the facts and know everything and understand everything perfectly before I begin doing past papers. And that is a terrible approach. You want to be doing past papers as early as possible. So AS papers throughout year 13, if you're a year 13 student, if you're a resit student, AS and A level papers throughout this year you want to have done every single past paper in a perfect world more than once. Because the answers in the sciences, 80% of the final mark scheme answers that will be on the test in 2026. Those papers probably not even completed yet, but I can guarantee you that about 80% of the marking points on those papers exist on the mark schemes of the papers that are already published across the AS and the A level papers. Those answers are already there. So if you've done those questions, if you've made those mistakes, if they've caught you with their little traps that they've set in all those past papers, you will have the awareness to not fall into those traps. Describe the process of transcription. That 5 bullet points, which was on that previous paper, which I did from 2017, just going to copy and paste those over from my head, full marks. Can the tutors on Tailored Tutors give a predicted grade? Within the Tailored Tutors courses, no. Tailored Tutors, one-to-one tutors, it will depend on the individual tutor. But if they're examiner and they're seeing you do past papers live, like sitting in a online room with you doing papers, then they can give you predicted grades. But those tutors are technically independent contractors. I'm not their employer. So there is an individual tutor by tutor. That's up to them. So I can't answer for all of them. So just so you know, if you sign up for the Tailored Tutors packages, the ones that are 50% off, I can't do a predicted grade for you because I am not going to be in a room watching you do a past paper. Otherwise, you could just cheat, and I'm not prepared to put my name behind something which I can't verify. I've answered the question about one-to-one tutoring is additional to our regular courses. I've already answered about the one-to-one tutoring. As I said, is anyone interested? Just let me know in the chat. Is anyone interested in having a tutor support them throughout the year on top of or as instead of the Tailored Tutors courses? Because if yes, I can share a different link with you in the chat for you and your parents to book in a call and to have a chat with me, basically. But as I said, you're talking probably £50 an hour minimum as a rough ballpark, and you're going to want probably at least, I'd say, 2 hours a month. So it's like £100 a month additional to that, probably as your UCAS references. I'd say same. The Tailored Tutors courses where I'm not seeing you do the work directly, I can't write you a personal reference because I don't know you personally. If you have one-to-one tutoring with a personal tutor, they can write references for you because they know you personally. So that's all the questions in the Q&A wrapped up. Should you be practicing old spec papers? there's so many current spec papers, then I would say you don't really need to. If you have exhausted all, I mean, in the sciences, it was 2017 was the current specification. So we've got 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So we've got 9 years worth, and we have 5 papers per year, 3 A-level, 2 AS. That's 45 papers. If you're doing that with the TT revision method, where you do the paper once and then you do your action hours and then you do the paper again, it takes roughly 10 hours as a round number per paper. So that's 450 hours of, of TT revision method if you do all of the papers between now and your exams. So that 450 hours over 10 months, that's 45 hours a month, which is like 10 hours a week alone right there. So like, are you going to run out of papers realistically? Probably not. I'd say old spec papers are most useful if it's like, oh, really can't get my head around questions on topic blah, topic A. Then you could delve into those past paper questions on that specific topic from old spec papers. Then there is some value in that. But aside from that, no. Okay, just I'm going to recap. Resitting is for you if you have a specific course in mind. Does that course or university accept resit grades? There is no universal answer. You should do the work to find out from the university or course that you specifically want to go into. Some medicine courses definitely do. So if it's like medicine at a specific uni that you're really dead set on, then obviously find out specifically from them. But there are options for medicine, dentistry, veterinary, which is the vast majority for you from the poll. Start as early as possible, basically from now, with the goal of mastering the exams. I would highly recommend some additional academic support. If you are doing repeating year 13, remember you are not what your teacher is completely focused on. You need to be responsible for your outcomes of yourself. So that is building in AS revision, 1 AS paper and 1 A-level paper per month with the TT revision method as a basic rule of thumb, as a minimum. You do not want to be just learning content all year and then thinking about past papers at the end of the year. You want that integrated approach where you're doing papers, topic content revision, and topic learning, relearning topics all at the same time in your given work week. You want to do roughly 10 to 12 hours per subject per week. If you possibly can, try to get ahead of the curve. Be ready for your exams in April 1st, not for June, and then you can fine tune and you will not feel completely ready. But then if you are mentally ready for those exams in April, gives you a much better opportunity. I would highly recommend using that 50% off the Tailored Tutors courses. That will be the cheapest can possibly be. It's a single payment, it's not recurring. It gives you unlimited access to our academy. To do that, just to remind you that as part of the academy, we can't do individual predicted grades for that. We can make you study plans and that kind of stuff. And if you want one-to-one tutoring, to contact me in the chat. In fact, I've just lost my chat for some reason. I think Bindu was about you asking for tutoring. Let me share a different link then, because if you are interested in private tutoring, again, if you join this call without your parents, then the call will end immediately. Your parents have to be present on that call. But if you go to that link, which I've just shared in the chat, I can share it on YouTube as well, I suppose. If you are interested in having basically a custom study plan that could potentially integrate the Tailored Tutors Academy courses as well as one-to-one tutoring as well, then you can book a call with me directly using the link which I've put in the chat. My issue is, if we worked hard this year and still failed to attain the grade, is it worth resitting? Because you might just get the same grade again. There's always a reason you got lower than expected again. Might not change. Ibrahim, it's an unusual case, honestly, that it seems like you've done plenty of past paper practice, and that your content knowledge. In your situation, Ibrahim, it's not so much did you resit or not. I think having an examiner, and even if you check in like once every other month for like a 2 hour check-in where you're going through past papers, you're doing a paper in the presence of an examiner, that I think would be incredibly valuable to someone in your situation who can actually like ease out what is it that is holding you back in these exams. Um, and it might even be that if your knowledge is good and your exam technique is good and it's just the pressure of the day, maybe even like a psychologist, like how can you simulate these high pressure environments? How can you get more comfortable and control your cortisol and your stress in those situations? It's Ibrahim, also, it depends for you. What are your alternatives? Do you have another course that you're kind of excited about or interested in doing, or another career path that you would consider? Because at the end of the day, I'm assuming none of you are hugely mature students, that you're all young and like there's all sorts of possible futures that lay ahead of you at this point. So, um, yeah, okay, so your alternatives still require retakes. If you were consistently getting A's and A stars in past papers and you weren't cheating and you weren't, doing them under time conditions, and you were consistently top of the class, and other classmates in that class got A's, I see absolutely no reason why you shouldn't get A's again, why you shouldn't be able to get A's, which is probably going to set you up. But obviously, there is no guarantee, which is the sad thing. I mean, I guess with tailored tutors, we have a great guarantee. So if you do it, at least then you wouldn't be, that whatever. If you resit biology, it's under £600 for the year. You would get that back again. It's not going to give you your the year of your life back, but I mean that makes it a little bit more risk free. In terms of the one-to-one tutoring, just to be completely clear, that is not something that's covered by our grade guarantee. The one-to-one tutors, obviously, they're putting in their time. They're all good quality people, so we're not going to refund your tutoring, paid one-to-one tutoring time. I did have another student this year, Ibrahim, who I won't mention their name, who again was similar. They were doing really well. I know that they know their stuff because I would ask them questions and they'd answer in the Zoom chat instantly. They didn't have time to look it up and then just be, they weren't just like Googling it and then repeating it back to me. It was like instant. And they also got C's, I think. And they were on track for certainly A's, if not B's. On the YouTube chat, should I learn the content first and then start doing past papers? No, it's not one and then the other. Let me just go back and share. Um, oh, I've closed it. I'll just reopen it. Oh no, I do have no, I've closed it everywhere. I've got it. So let me yeah, wrong folder. Okay, here we go. Like that is the thing that you want to do, is to learn the content first, but then this is gonna make this bigger. You want each month. So this is September. This is October. This is November. This is December. Each month you want to be doing past papers for probably TT revision method, probably 50%. Let's say you're doing 10 hours a week, 5 hours per week of papers and TT revision method, which is not just doing papers. Obviously, if you're not sure of the TT revision method, sign up for our Academy. We coach you through it. And then roughly 2.5 hours a week of topic-based revision packs, mixed topics, and then roughly 2.5 hours a week would be watching the videos, writing notes, and doing the quizzes, filling in knowledge. So that is your general structure to the year. Ibrahim, do you have a membership to the academy right now? Like, I don't know. I wish I had more insight. My best guess is some kind of like stress induced, panic induced. Because if it was consistent across multiple papers, um, then I say when you start, if and when you sign up, send me like a nice detailed message. If you sent me loads of detailed messages today, flesh out your situation, remind me that you were in this class because I'll have more context for that, and I'll record your video, and I'll give you my best thoughts. But I'm going to tell you now, I don't know, and I don't like. I'm giving you my best guess off the top of my head, but I'll record you a video either way. Okay, so Anna, in biology, that paper one, you said you did really badly in paper one and you did pretty okay in paper two and paper three. So that tells me the focus of paper one is the AS content. So probably making sure that's going to be the public weakness there. There's also actually slightly higher AO1 in that paper, which makes it, technically speaking, a bit more straightforward. So I would say just AS knowledge needs to be robust and practicing. And when you're doing past papers throughout the year, we want to be doing paper ones, paper twos, and paper threes. You lot now need to be ready for those final exams. We get students on, I've just been doing paper ones all year. It's like, well, your final exams, you have paper ones, paper twos, and paper threes. So we need to be practicing paper ones, paper twos, paper threes. That's what we need to be doing. Oh, if you're terrible at paper one, we'll do more paper ones as practice. Of course, we might not do equal numbers, but we're going to be throwing in all those um, regular attempts at each different paper type. AS paper one, AS paper two, A-level paper one, A-level paper two, A-level paper three. If you're really weak at the paper one AQA biology, that's all AS content, we can throw in some extra AS papers. You can make some more model answers on those, those A-level paper one, AS paper one, question, where is it? Okay, it's A-level paper one, the final question, all those 5-mark questions. Amazing revision resource. AS paper 2 final question. It's the same question. It's 10 marks, not 15 marks. You've got 2 5-markers rather than 3 5-markers. Memorize all of those mark schemes, basically. That is almost 50% of the content of the AS in very few bullet points. You're off to the races already by that point. So there's a few question types which we can throw in there as well to make sure you're hot on question types that come up more often in paper one than paper two, paper three. I'd say that's a relatively easy thing to fix, Anna. If I had a student that had to fix one thing in A-level biology and they were doing AQA, a weakness in paper one is probably the easiest thing to fix. It's weird though, because AS paper one is the most structurally straightforward in terms of the question types. It's also the most foundational in knowledge. So it's like, if you don't know the paper one content very well, it usually becomes quite hard to access the high quality marks in, especially in paper two. Paper three is more AO3 dominant, so different questions there. I haven't seen last year's paper one yet, so it could be a weird one. Okay, last few questions because we've been here for quite a long time. Obviously, if you have a TT membership, you can just log on and ask me questions, and I'll be there to answer them. You've got C in maths. In C to an A, I say realistically 2 grades is a realistic expectation. 3 grades is totally doable. It kind of comes down to, again, Naomi, in the early part of that handout, why? If you gave it your absolute all this year, and if you were 9 out of 10 effort, you practiced a load of papers, you did everything you possibly could, and you still came up 2 to 3 grades short, it's going to be really hard to go above and beyond to push up 2 grades beyond that. If you realistically were, I was a 6 out of 10 effort, I didn't do very many past papers, I didn't actually really try that hard, then 2 grade improvements totally possible. 3 grade improvement also possible. If you don't retake for uni, should you, I've just lost that, all your offers are contextual and will contain a B, and therefore only retake my Cs, or should I say retake all 3? The number of subjects to retake is a big one. Obviously, the grades that you need for the future course is mostly going to drive that decision. Retaking 3 subjects is basically a full-time job. As I said, 12 hours a week, 3 subjects, 36 hours a week, 36 focused hours per week. That is a legit job. If you're retaking 2, it increases your probability. You can focus more time on less content. It therefore becomes much more manageable to get a 2 to 3 grade improvement. If you're just resitting one subject, going up 3 grades might be possible. Much more possible to go up 3 grades in one subject than if you're resitting 3 subjects, of course. So yeah, I'd say if you're 2 marks off a B, then a high C to an A, definitely possible. Yeah, 2 grades, totally doable. Um, okay, that's everything from the YouTube chat. I don't quite understand your final question, Ibrahim. How about chemistry and maths? I assume that's in relation to your previous comment. Like, um, I'd say if you don't need the retake for university, don't retake it. It's a lot of extra work and it decreases the amount of time you could spend on those other subjects. So if you can just resit 2 and not 3, I would resit 2 and not 3. 19 out of 25 is excellent. It's the highest mark of the relational, I think it's relational tier band. So that's the second highest tier, but the 20 to 25 is the extended abstract tier. Um, should you learn extra for info outside the spec? Absolutely not. Do not learn any outside the spec information that you wouldn't learn anyway. If you're interested in biology and you like listening to science podcasts, by all means, but do not spend a single moment of your study time that you would otherwise be spending doing regular on spec knowledge, trying to learn off spec knowledge. Definitely hard no. Categorically. I did an interview with an AQA paper 3 examiner. If you have a TC membership in the AQA biology course, there's the masterclass on the essay. And the AQA paper 3 examiner agrees with me that that is an absolutely dumb thing to do. Your maximum mark is 23 out of 25, which is absolutely smashing off the charts A star. 19, well above the mean. Mean is typically 14. So you're 5 marks over the mean already. Um, how do we guarantee students achieve an A? With the ridiculous grade boundaries. Remember, the grade boundaries are, I don't really want to get into a conversation about the grade boundaries. The grade boundaries are set after the exams have been sat. So it's literally a proportion of students. They rank you most marks to fewest marks. Top slice, get the top grade. Next slice, so A stars, A's, B's, it's done in proportions. They are not unfair. So if the grade boundaries go up, it's because more students got more marks than they did in the previous year. It means the standard is going up. It means the teaching is getting better. Um, so yes, the grade boundaries are it's challenging. But as I said, as at A level, you are competing against not against everyone. You're competing against the top half of all students rather than all students. So it's much harder. It's like if you do a running race and you take a random sample of the population and run the race, then you might be in the top 20%. But if you then take the top 50% of the finishers and then run that race again, you're probably going to come way further back in the pack. Does that make sense? It's like you're competing against a more challenging cohort, and how you perform relative to the cohort sets the grade boundaries. That's how it is. Okay, I would just remind you that Tailored Tutors offer for 50% off the annual pricing is only available until the end of the month. The links are right here in the PDF. It will be expired in September, literally not available. So I suggest, even if you're thinking about starting in October, this is still going to be the cheapest way of doing it. As I said, I recommend doing of um, a little bit of something between now if you haven't got if you're focusing on the UCAT, something else. Thank you so much for joining me. Um, I will be available in the WhatsApp group. Oh, WhatsApp link. Let me find it. And because Zane asked me for it. Where's my course? So, yeah. Um, okay. That's the link to join the WhatsApp. And I could just probably for the people watching the recording to share my screen because there's a QR code on the screen, which I'm assuming is going to work via a screen share. So obviously we're looking at the WhatsApp community QR code, top left hand, top left hand side. You can just pause the video now. Three, two, one. It's gone. Okay. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope. Can you give me a little score out of 10 for usefulness in the Zoom chat there? How how useful was that from a resit perspective? I'm always everything I do, I'm trying to optimize for effectiveness. That is my whole teaching biology. Um, Everything I do is aimed at trying to be as time efficient as possible. I was a lazy student. I don't want to do any more work. I don't necessarily love it for the sake of loving it. I am a student-centered teacher as much as possible. So um, yeah, that's what you get with the tailored tutors approach, basically. Wonderful. Okay, so 10 out of 10s from pretty much everyone there. So that's great. Thank you so much for taking the time this evening. Happy Tuesday. I wish you the best of the best. And hopefully you, you know, you choose tailored tutors, you go on to resit these subjects, you smash your grades next year, and you go in to pursue those careers that you have been dreaming about. Have a great evening, and yeah, I'll if you've got the link to the handout, then make sure that you in fact I'll just paste it again because that is the place where those offers are. I'll just put it in the YouTube chat one final time as well, so that people in YouTube have the PDF. Oh, interesting. I thought that I copied the right thing, but here we go. I think this is the right thing. That goes in there, and that goes in there. And yeah, that's everything for now. See you next time.